Welcome to No Fall Zone, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of Freeride World Tour athletes, past and present, who've left their mark on the sport. We lift the curtain and give you a glimpse of what life is really like for some of the world's greatest professional freeriders. Our guest for this No Fall Zone episode comes from a family of snowboarding royalty. The rider from the Pyrenees made his mark as a backcountry freestyler, filming video parts with absinthe and transworld snowboarding before showcasing his high alpine skills on the steeps of Chamonix in Frozen Mind. Invited to compete on the 2019 Freeride World Tour, the season wildcard won the Canadian and Austrian events, which combined with third place at the Extreme Verbier was enough to claim the snowboard men's title his rookie year. The Frenchman has won 10 events in 5 seasons, including 2 victories on the infamous Bec d'Os. He holds the record for the most snowboard men title wins alongside fellow 3-time world champions Sami Lubke and his brother Xavier. This season, he stars in 2 critically acclaimed freeride films and is the favorite to win the FWT snowboard men's title once again. Victor Delerue, welcome to the podcast. Bienvenue.
Thank you, Dave.
Awesome. Great to have you with us finally. We've been trying to hook this one up for a little while now, and we've finally made it happen. So that's that's our first victory of the day. So tell me, where are you and what have you been doing? We were off camera talking a little bit earlier. So
Yeah.
and you are in a hotel room. So where exactly is that hotel room located and why are you there?
Yeah, sorry for the shitty background. I'm right now in Paris. We are promoting some films right now that we've done last season. So I've worked on 2 projects. One which is called Circle of Madness. It's a film in Alaska with Markus Eder, made by Christophe Thoresen. And but I'm right now in Paris to promote and to show in Le Grand Rex of a Lifetime, a film by Jerome Tanon, with my brother Xavier and my niece Mila, where we went in Antarctica a year ago.
All good. Well, we're going to get back and talk about both of those films a little bit more in detail. But right now, I want to go back to the beginning and find out how it was to be the youngest of the Delerue family. How was it growing up in Saint-Lary with you are the youngest. Your sister's older than you
Yeah,
too, right? Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So, the youngest of 5 siblings, 4 brothers total, one sister. So what was it like in the Delerue household as a kid?
Yeah, so it was always a mess. So we were five kids, 2 parents, so 7 to eat every day. So we lived in a ski resort in the Pyrenees, Saint-Lary, and our parents were always super busy because they had a ski shop in Saint-Lary called Intersport, where they rent skis and snowboard, and they sell clothes, gloves, whatever. So they were working so hard all the time, super busy, and they just wanted their kid to be outside and not inside and not play video games and whatever. So they were always very happy if we could go on a ski trip, for example, or go play tennis or whatever, but not stay inside.
So, well, yeah, indeed. And so did you guys go in there and raid the shop and like take everything that your brand new boards and skis and whatever you wanted, or?
Actually, not really. When I was a kid, I had the shittiest equipment ever, but quickly, somehow I managed to get sponsored, and then I got my own stuff. Yeah. And
So
as I was the 5th kid of the family, I was using the socks that my biggest brother were using, then gave to my Xavier, then that he gave to Sabine, and then that he gave to Polo, and then I was using the ones with the holes.
too good. And did you guys all start out skiing before snowboarding, or was it straight into snowboarding? Because I guess, well, how old's Francois?
Also, he's 12 years older than me, so
So 47.
47.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So he saw the beginning of snowboarding, basically,
Yeah,
or he was
yeah, yeah.
probably born about the same time snowboarding started. So,
So he started, so because he started, then my brother Xav started as well, so they both had fun, and then my sister and my other brother Polo followed. And with their generation, they had a sick club in Saint-Lary called the Brown Bears, and they had a very good vibe. There were a bunch of friends of the same age, and they started to be good, started to do competition, to move all together to the Alps, winning some competitions. So then, and then do more and more competition. So, and me as a little kid, I could always. So I'm 12 years younger than Francois, 10 years younger than Xav, and I could see them every weekend coming back on Sunday night with a huge smile on their face. They had, I didn't even know what they were doing, but I just could feel the energy that they had a blast doing
And,
something super exciting with their friends and going full on in what they were doing. And this was for me inspiration for sure.
and were they racing Alpine, or had they already started border cross at that point?
Yeah, first it was Alpine. They were all, but then they all switched to border cross, and that's where they were actually all pretty good. And so yeah, they were pushing each other, and they were like going to all the competition and winning bunch of competition, and so it was a great time for them.
And when did they start bringing you along on the trips, or did you go? You kind of went straight to freestyle. You never really competed
But
in
yeah,
the Alpine or border cross, I guess.
no, actually they never brought me because I was too young. So they were doing their own thing, and then I was doing my own thing, but I was doing the kids camp while they were doing the adults camp, so in different places.
Yeah,
And on myself, I started, so I was doing more border cross, no, more freestyle. So I
yeah,
was just alone. So I was riding in the park in Saint-Lary. We had a small lift and a small snow park, so I could do like so many laps a day alone, and that's kind of how I improved. And it was no one from my age, so I was more teaming up with older guys, older kids. So I improved a lot there. And then we had a team in uh, in the Pyrenees, so our mountain range. And with this, it was more access on border cross. So I was a part of this, but sometimes we were doing both competition or actually a bit more border cross. And then I went in a sports school in the Pyrenees, which where we could ride on Friday and Wednesday,
yeah,
and that was actually more well, border cross access as well.
yeah. And
But
were there some other kids that like other French guys who went on to become pro that you were already riding with back then, or was it just kind of just local Pyrenees kids?
yeah, in the Pyrenees it was more local Pyrenees kids, I say, for snowboard. And in skis, like I met there Pierre Hurtic.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, well, one of my best friend today as well, who invited me to Sham. Then he moved to Sham, became a guide, and then he wanted to show me his playground there and something else, and so we made Frozen Mine together.
Sounds good. All right. And so when you turned 21, because obviously all the three brothers, they did the X Games and then Freeride World Tour, or I guess Olympics first, and then Freeride World Tour. When did you kind of I know you were 21 when you took your first trip to AK with Xavier. I think it was in 2010. When did you kind of start, I don't know, hanging out and going riding with them instead of just doing stuff on your own around the Pyrenees? Or were you totally, on the freestyle thing? Because you started filming
Mm.
once you got out of the Pyrenees. You were filming, but you were like doing the full freestyle.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were hanging with the Sico Pete or they were a little bit older than
no, they
you,
were
but
older.
yeah. But you ended up filming with Morgan
Yeah,
Le Faucheur and
yeah. No, I was always doing my own stuff, not in the same time of my brothers and sister. Um, yeah, I was doing first I was riding for Burton, so and then I was competing in slopestyle, so I was doing the competition and then got invited for some shoots, and then I moved to Rip Curl, and that's where everything kind of happened for me, thanks to my team managers, Damien Giraud, and I had as agent his brother Mathieu
that's
Giraud.
true.
So
Yes.
those guys really took us and helped us they say, okay, we're gonna take those guys and help them the best to make a career kind of. So with Rip Curl, um, they decided to make a film, which they called Welcome Home, and so we're a crew, and Damien, actually, the team manager of Rip Curl, had a good feeling, and so he kind of took the right guys. So he took Elias Elart, who got like super strong,
Yep.
Victor Davier, Nils Arvidsson, Janne Lipsanen, um, myself, and a few others, and so we were all beginning. So, but he gave us the opportunity of making this film Welcome Home 1. So we had a filmer and photographer pretty much the whole winter. So honestly, the first film was quite crap. Well, if you look at it right now, like you guys would laugh. But it allows us to learn filming, and to get as well some promotion. We had the Rip Curl ads and stuff. Then we made Welcome Home 2, which got better. And then after that, we're kind of good enough. And he gave us the opportunity to film for a big production, with back in the day was what you had to do to be pro.
Yep.
So to film with Absinthe. So he paid me a video part, and I had a great season. And yeah, I actually ended up having. Ah, no, actually, it was for standard film first. I filmed the whole season with Fredrik Albermeten, and then a second year for standard again, but nothing was planned, so I organized my own filmer and film a bunch of stuff. And then actually in February, they say, oh, actually, we're not making a movie. So we're like, oh, what am I doing now? My winter project was going kind of falling apart, and then we contacted Absinthe, and they say, yeah, you should film for us. So I ended up filming for them for the rest of the season. So I gave them all the footage of my season, and they actually gave me the last segment of the film, Dopamine.
Oh, so you
Eh,
filmed with them. You did 2 seasons filming with them.
yeah, or two or
2013 and
three.
3 total. Okay, because
Yeah,
I went I did tried to do a lot of research, and you've done a lot of filming over over the
yeah.
years, so I tried to find everything, but
Okay,
I found Heavy Mental, and
yeah.
but I didn't I that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, actually, is if you'd only done that one season with them. But it seemed to me that because that whole crew that you cited from that you were riding with Rip Curl that Damien put together, I mean,
Yeah,
pretty much everybody ended up filming with Absinthe afterwards.
yeah, yeah. Because he picked the right guys, kind of. He
Yeah.
had the good feeling, and as well, he gave us the opportunity and the budget to go with the right guys.
So how was that? Were you shooting with Justin Hoistenik or Patrick Armbruster or both, or did you guys have your own filmers and then take the footage and give it to the Absinthe guys and they put it together?
So actually, the first half of the season was I was filming with Almo Films,
Yep.
Morgan Le Faucheur and stuff. So with Victor Davier and all those guys. And so I kept those footage for as well for Absinthe, and the rest of the season was mostly with David Vladika,
All
and
right.
in Alaska. He was a bit with Justin Hostenek as well, and then they so gave me the last part of the film and the cover of the film, which for an athlete, when you do that, it kind of it's a great step.
Oh yeah.
So a great achievement. So I was proud of that. And the year after, film for Absinthe as well. And then the year after, I had the opportunity to film for Transworld,
I
which
was
was
gonna
super sick. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, you did two. You did Origins in 2015 and then Insight in 2016. And at this point, basically, as you kind of get into the filming, that's where you start transitioning from, I guess, the pure freestyle into the free riding aspect of the thing. And that's kind of where I was trying to get at was, did Xavier help you get into the free riding, or you kind of came into the free ride thing just by filming and hanging out with the Rip Curl guys and then Almo, and it was through the filming, or did Xavier have play any role in kind of bringing you
hmm
into the whole free ride scene?
So he played a big role in my very first year in standard film for the film 2112, where he said, hey, you want to come to Alaska at the end of the season? We can do a trip together. So for me, back then I was just a freestyler, and um, and that's where I did my first trip. And so this for sure opened my eyes on what was Alaska like to be there myself, even though I knew it from watching video parts and stuff. Yeah, so that was a big step.
So that was 2010, because as we kind of go through the different films and you watch coming forward, I mean, in Heavy Mental already, that one in 2014 with Absinthe, you've already, chucking in some big lines. And then the two Transworld films, especially Insight in 2016 with the Mallory couloir and the riding the ice faces and stuff like that. That was, you're
Hmm.
already kind of building. You've already,
Yeah.
taken steps up quite a few levels from just 5 years before.
Actually, my first year on Transworld was a big year on Origins because Transworld was for sure an American production, but probably the biggest and the coolest at the moment. So, Haldor Helgason had his parts in there. It was really like, if you can do this, it's awesome. And yeah, we went to the premiere to in the US, in California, and then we saw the film. And then there I saw that I had the last part was really unreal, especially that in this film was so many legends, so many good riders. So this was super good. And the year after that, I was supposed to film again for Transworld, but then I got that call from Travis, which I had no idea. Well, I didn't know the guy, and he invited me to go to film for the fourth phase. So I did that the year after, actually.
That was in 2017, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. You
yeah.
you know way better
I've
than me,
Yeah, well,
apparently.
I'm just going through your filmography here. So yeah, so the fourth phase. So what was your reaction when Trav called, or did he send an email or a text,
Yeah.
or what was the?
So I still remember super well that moment. I was actually in Saas-Fee in a hotel room alone. I was there to go ride and train in early season, and then he called me in the evening. I was in bed, and hey, hello, Victor. This is Travis. I'm like, what? What? Yeah, Travis Rice. Oh, why? What the fuck? Why does this guy is giving me a call? I was a little kid. I was really surprised. He told me like he was talking, and then at some point I realized that he's inviting me for this 5-week trip camping in Alaska for his latest film, which is a 4-year project. So after a huge project after the Art of Flight. So it was really unreal. And for that film, he picked a bunch of young writers. He went to Japan for with Mikael Bang. He went filming backcountry in Jackson Hole with Ben Ferguson. Then with Pat Moore as well, and then yeah, he just took a bunch of young guys from everywhere. And then for Alaska, he picked me, so I was like, wow, super proud. Well, he told me, well, actually, we're supposed to get Gigi Roof, but actually he said no, or he didn't want, or he couldn't, or whatever. So we picked you. I was like, yay!
Thanks,
So
Gigi.
yeah, I remember not being able to sleep the whole night because my brain was going, and I woke up being like, was that a dream or did that actually happen? So it was pretty unreal to see what the biggest snowboard production was and to see how it works and learn from it and be with the best of the best and all that.
Man, that must have been absolutely awesome. And then after that, you decided to co-produce Frozen Mind and get
Mm.
back together. No?
No, before that we did Sweet and Sour from that film with Travis and Red Bull. I kind of learned stuff, and then I was like, yeah, okay, I'm yeah, I'm gonna do another film in Alaska, and so I called like Richard Perman, a skier from Red Bull,
Yep.
French, and we thought, okay, let's try to organize that sick trip in Alaska and make a strong film about that. So we did it. And then after this one, that's where I was like, okay, I want as well to add something else, um, to add the high mountain kind of the more experience instead of a heli trip kind of. And that's where my friend Pierre Ortic told me, yeah, you should come to Sham. We hang out, and then we film a bunch of lines. I show you around, and then so that whole season I film so a bunch of stuff with him in April and May in Sham, riding the steep lines, which I've never done before. And then the rest of the season, I filmed more in the glaciers and kind of did all the tricks that I was doing usually in the backcountry, but I was doing it in kind of extreme environment, like around a crevasse,
Yeah.
around ice, where like it's more dangerous, more beautiful, and where the place has so much power, you know.
Oh yeah. No,
And that was
it
so
was
that was kind of
incredible.
thank you so much. So that was kind of a dream. So after this year, I had like kind of I did a sick backcountry segment in the ice and stuff in glaciers, and I com and then I we rode like some epic lines where I even did a cool combo with paragliding in the Aiguille du Plan and stuff. So that was quite an achievement for me too. And after that, I was okay. So what's next? Like I've done like already so much this year. What should I do? And then I was started to think about Freeride World Tour. Should I do it or not? So I remember asking Emilien Badou, which was a great friend of mine, who actually got a world champ
Yep.
probably that year. And so how should I do if I want to do a Freeride World Tour? And he told me, maybe you can ask a wild card. But it took me some time to think about it, and then at some point I sent a message to, I don't know, to Lolo, to Bertie probably,
Yeah.
and he was actually starting to be pretty late, so I was a bit stressed. Ooh, did I wait too much? Did they choose somebody already? And they answered that they were stoked, so I was like, yeah, it was game on. New objective. So I had actually, I've never really watched the Fred World Tour comps before participating to it. So it was yeah, it was yeah, to
Oh,
go for a new challenge, kind of see something else, see another aspect of snowboarding.
no doubt. And was it hard to balance the contest riding with the filming?
Um, I don't remember on the first year if I did a film or not.
I don't.
Yeah, probably I did a film called Defiance probably that year. I think it was that year, I'm not too sure, but that year was two trips in Canada. So one in Braylorn and one in Pemberton. So for me, it was a bit difficult because the season is quite packed with competition, and
Yeah.
I had to organize the both trips exactly in between. But you know, when you do competitions, you have a week, you have a window of 5 days or a week. But then if you do the first competition on the first day, then you win 5 days, but if you do it on the last one and then the next competition on the first one, then your window is super small. So I was super stressed on for example, being in Andorra. The competition took so much time to happen, and I was like, should I just fuck up the competition and go to my shooting, or should I waste the first day of my shooting and do the competition? But the snow was super bad, so it was a pretty hectic to focus on both. But
Yeah.
for some reason, it went pretty well.
You've always
Yeah, on
seen.
both.
Yeah, you've always seemed to be able to manage the to manage the two, definitely for
hmm
sure. So did tour life, I mean, you said you never watched the competitions really beforehand or paid too much attention. Did you have any expectations? I mean, by that time, Xavier had already been, he'd won his 3 world championships. Had you kind of talked to him a little bit about it, or did you just kind of go, okay, new adventure. I'm just going to jump in. I don't really know what to expect, but let's just do it.
Yeah, I don't really remember, but I'm pretty sure I told him or asked what he thought. But and about my expectation, for sure, when you watch the competition, you're like, oh, I can do this. Let's give it a try. But then when you do it, it's a different game. And I remember my first competition ever was in Japan, in Hakuba, and I'm tumbling already 10 meters after my start gate. And then I did the shittiest run ever, and I looked at myself in the replay in the evening. I was so ashamed of me. So I was like, okay, I got to change some stuff from now on, and after that it worked. Yeah.
Did you start training, or what did you change? Was it just the
Um,
focus preparation?
because when I went on my first competition ever in Hakuba, I didn't want to put too much pressure on me or interest myself on how it's actually working, the competition and stuff. I just wanted to look at the mountain and do like I would do on a filming trip.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, somehow it just didn't work. So then I learned from my mistake, and I had 2 weeks of really bad moment where I was like, oh, I'm such a shit. What I was so ashamed of what I just did. And then I went from there, and yeah, and then went to Canada. Actually, after Japan, so I met up Markus Eder and Fabio Studer and their filmer Melis, and then from Japan to Canada, we decided to go on the other side. So we went and we stopped in Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, on the Big Island. So we were there doing bunch of stuff, surfing, having good time. And but I was like feeling so bad about that first competition. But then I won the one in Canada right after. So after that, I was like, oh wow, I couldn't believe it. It was a great
Yeah, a
switch.
great
Switch.
switch for sure. And then you went on one Fieberbrunn after that as well. So, but what was the like? What was the switch? How you said you wanted to ride it like you were as if you were filming, but that obviously doesn't work. So for you, what's the difference between like preparing for a day filming or preparing for the contest, or I don't know, choice of line? What did you do that kind of made the difference?
Well, when you're competing on freeriding, first of all, it's like somebody tells you, okay, this is the start, this is the finish. You need to do a good run from there to there that day. Okay, right now, do it. And sometimes in bad, good, and bad conditions, so it can be a bit different. So first of all, it was a new experience for me to experiment all this, where I didn't interest myself about it beforehand. And what did I change before the? Yeah, I just learned some stuff from the first competition. So I know, like, okay, I wanted to do in Hakuba a very simple line because I didn't want to overthink it or whatever. But if you don't overthink it, you do like a super kind of shitty run with just two jumps, and actually it was not interesting at all. So I remember Travis, he went there, did a seven, then he was riding fast, then did a cliff to a backflip straight, and I was kind of blown away. I was like, ah, okay, this is what you need to do. Because before that, I didn't even really think about it, you know?
Yeah,
And so I took that, and so I tried to study the line, and I was rooming up with Markus Eder, I think, or we were really exchanging about lines, and and it was interesting to see with him his vision, and the way he was riding the mountain was really really interesting. And so I studied a good line, a bit, well, no, not really original, but then I had a good line. I stomped my last cliff. I was like, stomped it. I was stoked. And then I arrived to the bottom. I remember, you're on the hot seat, buddy. And I was like, what? What is the hot seat? And, and then, oh yeah, so I won. And I was like, yeah, I remember this feeling was super cool.
yeah, no doubt. Winning is always a good feeling for sure.
Yeah, but
So
especially the first one,
yeah,
first ever, especially when the one before was such a bad comp for me, and the fact of staying with that bad feeling of losing and being such a bad rider for 2 weeks, like ooh, just waiting for the next comp and then finally get it good.
for sure. So did you is that first kicking horse win? Is that the best one for you? Not when you look back on the 5 seasons.
Uh, for sure, it was a special one because it was the first one. But I had some other good ones where I got really stoked. Sometimes, you win and you're like, ah, yeah, okay, cool. And sometimes you're like, yeah. It really depends on what happened in your mind before, how you're feeling, uh, your need of results, maybe to pass the cut or to become world champion or not. So they all taste different. And yeah.
No doubt. So if you had to pick like your top three.
So I know once in Verbier, I was not doing so good in the ranking. And then one year in Verbier on the Petit Bec. I won, and then he made that I won the whole tour. So this
Yeah,
one really cool.
2021.
Uh, and then which one would be cool? And I know as well this year in Canada, I was super happy to win again. Was probably because he was for me. I hate that face. It's so small and a bit not that exciting, not that much snow. So I was a bit like, yeah, boring. But then you try to make a line on for me, what I find a kind of a shitty face. Sorry to say that.
No, no, that's
And
that's
and,
that's
and somehow I managed to do something, and then I make it to the finish line, and I win this one. And so for some reason, this one was had a good, really good feeling.
yeah. All right, cool. So, what is your favorite venue? Obviously, not Kicking Horse and not Ozone.
My favorite is well, I love Georgia this year because it was new, because it was good snow, because you had so many options. And wow, I would love if we could get more venues in these conditions.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not easy. I think that Georgia contest is probably the best
Yeah.
conditions in maybe even in the history of the tour. I know there's been some good ones, but as far as just blower pow and an amazing face like that, it's
And it was new as well. It's
yeah,
cool to have something new.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So are you looking forward to Val Thorens this year?
Yeah, for sure. It's cool. A bit less traveling for this one than the others.
No
And
doubt.
yeah, it's gonna be cool.
All right, well, let's talk world titles. So you've won three of them. Was that before we actually get into each of the titles? But did you think about it like Xavier's got three, and as you kind of won your first one and then got your second one, is like it was even like subconsciously, is there any kind of competition to try and win as many as he did, and knowing that you're still there and you could potentially become the best snowboard man in Freeride World Tour history this year if you pull it off again?
Mm, yeah, for sure. I would be stoked to win a couple. I already had two. Two's cool, but three would be even better to match Sammy and Xav. So yeah, for sure, you have this in the back of your mind, and yeah, it happened.
So of the three, 2019, 2021, 2024, which was the most special?
Um, well, this one, well, the first one was they were all kind of special because the first one, 2019, was special because it was my first year and it started super bad, but then I did it. But in a way, I was not really proud of my riding, not too much. So I was like, yeah, yeah, uh, I did it, but not that
Yeah,
proud. Then 22, I was like, okay, I won last year, it should be all good. And then actually, I had I won the first competition in Japan, and then fucked up. Yeah, then I got third because I kind of missed the end of my line in Canada. So I got third, was a bit bummed on this. And then after that, it was Andorra, but it got cancelled.
yeah,
So we went to Austria, and in Austria we had two competition, and I fell like two times in both of my run or something super bad like this. So then from I was yellow bib
yeah,
to way back,
yeah.
and
You
then
went from yeah, you went
Verbier
from
got cancelled, I think.
exactly it was yeah, because that was 2020. That was a COVID year.
So
So
there I was really bummed. I was like, oh, I so blew it this year. So the year after had more taste than 2019 because I went on a down moment, and so I wanted even more than on the first year. And then 23, I was injured, so I didn't compete.
exactly.
And 24, I won the first comp. I was super stoked. Then I was on the second, who won again, and third again, and fourth again. And so there I was world champ already.
Yep.
And then on the fifth one, I don't know what happened, but
You just
uh,
clipped the rock on the landing of the Hollywood.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Wow, you're on point, huh?
I
You know
I
everything.
I study.
Yeah, you study well. Um, Yeah, I just went way too slow on that cliff, and I don't know why, because I was stressed for some other reasons, and as well when I dropped, it was well. My main thing was I was super well stressed the days before. I don't know why, and during the camp, I was super tired that day, like so. And I was like, why am I like this? But I was like, okay, whatever, it's going to be fine. I'm going to be on top of my line. Anyway, you need to have energy just for 40 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine. Then I drop, it's okay. And then when I get into the north, into the
The
main
center
couloir
Yeah.
central,
Yeah.
I realized like, holy moly, actually, I cannot see anything. It was so flat
That
light.
light. Yeah.
And before when I was on top of the line, I didn't even expect that I would not see anything. And I was like riding, making some turns. I could see slough like 1 meter from my board, but I couldn't even see the rest. I was like, ooh. So I do a back three on that cliff, even though I cannot see anything. I stomp, I'm okay. So I make my way to the Hollywood. And then, I don't know, for some reason, I just went super slow out of it, which is super stupid, and hit the rock and fell. So
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a
and
bit of a
then
yeah, kind of butt check back slap, and then the rest, and then you still hit
yeah,
like
face
two.
plant a bit.
Oh, did you as well? I can't.
A bit it was super weird. I was in a weird. It was not a great memory on this one.
Yeah, no doubt.
Can't
But I
wait
mean,
to have my
you got
revenge
up
on
and
this one.
yeah, you got up and finished the line though. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
a couple more drops down below, but whatever. It was what it was. You'd already done what she needed to do to win the
Hmm.
title, so it was all good. So one thing I wanted to ask you though is what happened in 2022, just for because you got fifth in Baqueira, you got second in Ordino
Uh,
Arcalis.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. So I fell in the first competition.
Yep.
For some reason, I went way too fast this time on a cliff, so I was way too high, and I was supposed to do a three, and then I did a five, and I didn't land. And then from there, what happened? Sorry.
No, you
Uh,
got second in Ordino Arcalis,
oh
so
yeah,
you were equal third, and then you got fifth in Kicking Horse, and you missed the cut
yeah,
by
yeah.
one spot.
So yeah, first competition fell. Second competition, I was like, okay, I need to qualify. So kind of go, kind of mellow, kind of. Got third, you said.
You got second, and you were
Second,
equal third in the rankings
yeah.
after that. Yeah,
And then, yeah, on the next one,
and then Kicking Horse, you got fifth. So I think
yeah, yeah,
you
I did
fell
my run,
again.
but as well, I had to kind of make sure I stopped my run to qualify because I had one, I bailed once already. So I went kind of mellow, but at the end of my run, for some reason, I hit a icy ball just in a turn and poof and
Yeah,
fell.
it
And then
went
I was
down.
like, oh shit, I went all the way to Canada to do such a shitty run again. Sucks. And then people tell me, oh, my girlfriend calls me and she told me, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, it's okay, oh, it's boring, but whatever. And then she actually explained me that I got cut out. I was out of the cut, and this I didn't even really consider it that much. I was, what? Really? And then all the rest of the riders did exactly the position.
That they,
So me, I would get out of the cut.
yeah, yeah,
So I was like, oh, okay, oh, damn it, it's over. Okay, so then I was really bummed, but I was like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna focus on going
go film.
to Alaska and make a sick project. So luckily, I had another project,
Yeah, was that
and that year actually we did a free rider.
free? Yeah, I was gonna say with Jerome Tanon. The
Yeah.
I so I've gone back. I've watched tons of the films, and that one, even when I saw it the first time, it just popped up on YouTube. I don't know what I was watching, but I think I was probably watching like some of the 50 videos or something like that with Cody Townsend, and then the free rider dropped up, and it was like after midnight. I don't even know when. Just in bed, the wife's asleep on the side, and I am just be cracking up from Jerome's
Uh,
commentary, and then just going, "Oh my god!" Like watching you
uh,
guys, just ride. It was because it's with Sam Antamaten, who's Sam,
yeah,
one of my all-time favorites as well, human
yeah,
being
same
and
here.
to watch ride. But the commentary was just, I love it. to be a real free rider, you've got to ride the spines.
Spies.
And then and we have Victor, the star snowboarder from the Pyrenees, whose sheer talent can only be explained by an extraordinary lack of brain cells. It
Yeah,
was
he's so good. He's so good. That was such a cool trip experience and film. Yeah.
so, and which kind of it brings us back to I mean, and he's absolutely he's super funny, and there's a bunch of things I want to bounce off with that. But was that the first time that you'd worked with Jerome before?
No, so I worked with him many times, but because he's a photographer at first. Now people know him as a
As a
filmmaker because he
cinematographer, yeah.
made The Eternal Beauty of Snowboarding, Freerider, Zabardast, Now of a Lifetime, a climbing film as well. Uh,
Ah, Jerome
Bleu dans
did
la peau.
Zabardast as well.
Yeah, yeah, that film got
That's
super
where.
huge too.
Oh yeah, I was the president of the jury for the Freeride Film Festival in Tarbes with
Oh,
Bruno Delay.
oh, no way,
Yeah,
nice.
and it was the year that Zabardast came out, so that was where
Hmm.
the. But I knew that I'd heard the name Jerome Tanon before, but
Okay.
I couldn't remember. And then yeah, we've just made the connection. So yeah, so he does not only very entertaining films, but some super
Yeah,
awesome films. So was it a natural fit
yeah,
to work
totally.
with him on Of a Lifetime?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So to talk about Jerome, so first he's a photographer, so he's really an artist and a weirdo, he just likes to do his thing, not care what people think, even if it's super weird, makes him probably even happier. So we learned it with him. He was probably one of the first photographers we worked with Jerome Tanon, Benteji, Jean-Jacques Roux, etc. while we were doing the Harakiri films, really back then,
Oh
even
yeah, okay,
before
yeah.
the Rip Curl films when we were probably 17 or I don't know. And actually, oh, he's sending me a message right now. And yeah, and so as we were filming for Transworld, Absinthe, all those projects. Um, he was here. He was the photographer, but he had as well his this tiny camera, and he was filming all the time. But he has a 10 centimeter camera. He was filming all day long. We're like, okay, oof, this guy has hours and days of footage or whatever. He's never even gonna watch it, and he's a photographer, so we really didn't gave a fuck about it. So we're so fully natural. And so he filmed all the crews he followed to take pictures. He filmed at the same time for 4 years. So, and he's one of the main photographer in Europe. And so he went with bunch of famous snowboarders, kind of with Gigi Roof, with with the Parrot crew, Absinthe crew,
Right, yeah.
a bit with everybody. So he had footage of everybody, and then he edited that. We had no idea. He was like, "Yeah, I'm editing my footage from my small camera, whatever." And then he put the film online, and then everybody cracked on it when they saw it because so he's making fun of us in this film. All of
Right.
you guys should check it out on YouTube. It's called The Eternal Beauty of Snowboarding.
Ah,
Uh,
okay, that's the one. All right. We
have
will.
you?
No, I
Oh, you
haven't watched
should.
it. No, I'm going
Oh,
to. As soon as
and
we're done
actually,
here, I'm going to try.
so it's super shaky camera, and he's making fun of all the pro snowboarders, what they do, how they are, and he made big compilations of when he explains about the riders how they are. He made compilation of a similar moment, like we always say the same thing, like oh sick, so sick, so sick, bunch of stuff like this from bunch of different riders from bunch of different places in the world. So it's hilarious, and snowboarders love it, but as well, people outside of snowboarding, they understand a bit more what our life is, kind of,
Yeah.
and he's being hilarious. So this project got a lot of yeah, it was great. Lots of people loved it, and after that, he got the job. He got hired to go to do Zabardas with Morgan Le Faucheur, and
Right.
this was actually his first film, first real film that had. a lot of success, kind of.
Yeah. No, it was yeah,
I've been
that
talking a
event
lot.
was
Sorry for
incredible.
that.
No, no, dude, yeah, that's what we're here for. That's totally what we're here for. So let's keep on talking about Jerome and tell me how did it go going to Antarctica with him?
Yeah. So it was super fun to be in Antarctica with him. So Xavier and his wife organized, and yeah, they choose to take him because we all love what he did in previous films about that, Eternal Beauty of Snowboarding. We love his vibe. Yeah, he did Freerider as well in between, and yeah, he was the right guy who would give the good feeling of the trip that we wanted to. And yeah, with him it's mellow. He's super easy. I always call him the chameleon because he always transforms himself depending on who he is. If you go on a shoot with Americans, he would speak even more Americans than them, and even the Americans would feel ashamed that this guy is more American than them. Or if he would go to shoot to Saas-Fee with Freddy Calbermaten, he would talk even slower than him, you know. So he really adapts to everybody, and yeah,
That's great.
he's so good at filming, you know, the good moments which are important. And as he films all the time, you're so natural, and he can capture great stuff. And when he makes project, he's so focused and he dedicates his life to it, and he's smart. He knows how to do things. If he doesn't know, he learn quick how to do. So, you know, if he does something, he's gonna do it good. And that was yeah, great vibe and great work. So it was the guy to take.
Awesome. So how did the project come together? It's I know you're right now one of the reasons you're in Paris is to promote of a lifetime. And it's I've seen some of the trailers. Obviously it's not out so we can't tell people where to watch it, but if you could have the access to film festivals, then obviously you can see it. But tell us a little bit. I mean, it's basically you and your brother Xavier and Mila, your niece, go to Antarctica, but what's the I don't know what's the standout moment of the trip for you? If you had to, you know, like in 1 minute, just tell me what of a lifetime, you know, is
So
about.
of a lifetime is like Mila so my niece, Xavier's daughter, going on the first trip of her life. So we're all traversing the Drake Passage, which is the craziest place to sail on the planet, and then and we are not sailors at all. And we get there, and she never had done a ski expedition, never been to Antarctica, never been yeah, never filmed. So bunch of new stuff for her, and it's to see her evolution as well. And then yeah, this place is just unreal, like really unreal.
Had you been
Uh,
before? Because I know your
no,
brother's been
never.
before. You'd never
My
been.
brother has been twice, and that's because he found it such the most special place that he has visited in his life, that he wanted to bring his little brother, so me, at some point. So he organized the trip, but then at some point, Mila, because the trip took some time to get organized and to happen. Mila grew up, and then she was able to join. So she turned 18 while we were there on our last day of the trip. So that was really special as well.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, and this place is really unreal with like you have seracs all over the place, the steepest lines you can imagine everywhere, all over the place. You have the animals, the penguins, the whales, the the orcas, the icebergs, and then we had the sickest captain, sorry, that was super trusting us, and we were trusting him so much as well. So he would allow us to do whatever, even the dumbest idea ever. He was like, "Yep, let's do this." But you know, in a smart way, you know,
Yeah.
like he was doing everything to make it happen in a safe way. But I would never have imagined somebody like accepting everything that we propose. Like, oh, you see this sketchy iceberg? Can we ride it? Yeah, okay, let's go. I was like, wow, okay, so cool. Anybody else would have been, they can
Yeah.
flip, it's dangerous, maybe you can go do something else over there. And as he was really trusting us, we were really so efficient all the time when we had an idea. He was making everything to make it happen the quickest, and the best way possible. So this is why we've done that much stuff in this 3 week trip.
So was it really the trip of a lifetime? Because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what's the best trip you've ever done? Was that it?
For sure, it's a trip of a lifetime, one of the best because it will stand out all of my life because it's so crazy. It's so unreal that place, and you feel the place is so wild, and you're so privileged to be able to see a place where so few people go and to see the nature in its pure way. You see that the animals are not even really afraid of you because they're not afraid of
They never
humans
see
because they
humans.
don't
Yeah.
see any. Yeah, you see the penguins next to you. You look at them. You go in the dinghy. You have the whales passing by you. The orcas, even the orcas. I thought, the orcas. I thought they were super mean and stuff, super dangerous. But we were going with the dinghy next to them. They were super chill. Uh, Yeah, so for sure, trip of a lifetime. But I had other, in the stage of your career, maybe this
Yeah.
one really stands out because it's the first time you do this. Then, for example, I had a climbing trip with my wife to Indian Creek. This was as well one of I always said, oh, this was the best trip of my life. We just rented a huge RV
Yeah.
and we traveled for 3 weeks in the US and climbed a bunch in Indian Creek and climbed a bunch of towers. And there at some point, we saw her boobs growing a bit every day. We were like, "What's happening? Is that too much burgers or what?" And then we realized she was pregnant. So yeah, so this was as well a trip of a lifetime too, but in a
For sure.
different way,
In a different way, no doubt. And I think, well, we've already talked about Freerider, but Circle of Madness as well. Those two trips, I think, to the Alaska to ride spines must rate pretty high up on the scale as well.
Yeah,
With two amazing skiers who obviously we've mentioned Sam since we've been talking about Freerider, but with Markus Eder as well. So you and Markus you've been hanging out for quite a while. Was that through North Face when you switched from Rip Curl to North Face? Is that when you guys started hanging together, or was
yeah,
it with the tour? No, it was with
yeah,
North Face.
totally. So we met every year. The North Face make the athlete summit. They invite all the athletes from. Yeah, they call us athletes. Sounds pretty rad, right? So from all the world and from all different sports, so climbing, running, skiing, snowboarding, alpinist. So you meet bunch of guys, and the first year, you talk to a bunch of guys, but you have no idea of who's who, and
Right.
you talk to Alex Honnold, you're like, oh yeah, you climb. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, I like climbing too. And then you watch movies and you realize that each of those guys are like fucking legends. It's super cool, super inspiring. And to exchange as well, because sometimes we have kind of the same status in different sports, but we don't know anything about the other guy or the other guy's sport, so it's so interesting to talk with those guys. I really love it every year.
Yeah.
So one year I met Marcus, and so he was kind of the same profile as me, but as a skier, he loved freestyle. He made a bunch of films into MSP. He loved to go to Alaska, so I was like, "Oh, we should do at some point a trip in AK together." Yeah, yeah, that would be cool. But this really didn't happen because I planned it already with Richard Permin for the film Sweet and Sour,
Mm-hmm.
and then life happened. But that's where I met him, and then we went on the Freeride World Tour the year after, 2019 and or 18, and yeah, we hooked up there, and it was super cool too. to study lines with him because he was one of the only guy I knew probably.
Yep.
So he was probably yeah helping me out to understand how it works because he did that many years before, how he was scoping lines
Yeah.
and
And you guys have a similar vision or of the mountain or similar way of reading the mountain as well, it seems.
a little bit, but he had definitely special way where he was really being really creative, and for me it was super inspiring to see the way he would read the same face as me. You know, it's so funny on the
Yeah.
Freeride World Tour. You look at the mountain and you're like, okay, so phew, this looks maybe pretty bad or pretty good. Me, I see this, but it's so funny to see, okay, all those other, like probably 70 other athletes, I don't know how many, how are they going to read it, you know? And Marcus always sees it in a way that you can't even imagine. So sometimes when I scope line, I'm like, okay, so what would Markus Eder do on this one, for example? So that's pretty interesting. I know, for example, Marcus would be the opposite, for example, of what would Xavier do on that
Oh,
face, you know?
yeah, for sure.
This is why it's so funny to see what's possible, what exists, and inspire you from the best of each riders, kind of.
That's with another question I was going to ask you as far as inspirations go. Because I mean, you ride with the two projects that obviously that we've been speaking of, but with Sam and with Marcus, whereas Sam is more as Sam and Jeremy Heights are more, ride in the style of your brother, and you kind of ride more in the style of Marcus. But and one of the things as well is that amazes me about both of you guys is how you're two of the very few snowboarders on the planet that can ride with the skiers, and you don't go, oh, the skiers are better than the snowboarders, whereas on a as a general rule, I would say that the skiers go bigger, maybe doing more spins and stuff like that. But when you watch Circle of Madness, you and Marcus are just, it's both mind blowing on to watch both of you ride in your own style, and you're not like, oh, the skier's way better than the snowboarder, where sometimes on the Freeride World Tour that's kind of the feeling
Yeah,
that you
big
get.
time. Big time. Yeah, thank you. That's nice to hear. Yeah, difficult sometimes to be with such legends and to keep up.
Well, you do a really good job of it.
Yeah.
So, do you enjoy more riding with the skiers or with other snowboarders, or does it kind of depend on the trip? Or I don't know how
So
does
I've done quite a few trips with the skiers, and for me, I like to be with people that push me a lot, where I can really kind of see something else and get there. So the first year I did that was and I was actually with Richard Permin, but where I felt it the most was with Pierre Hurtig in Cham, where he's a guide. He was able to do a bunch of stuff, you know, with the skis. They can go higher, faster, blah, blah, blah. So this was really cool. And then with Samantha Matten, he's such a great alpinist and stuff. So when we did Freerider and we were in Alaska, it was so good to be with him because well, first of all, he's such a good guy to be with. He's so
yeah.
nice. And he's the guy that I know that has the most knowledge and competence. And he's so good at paragliding, skiing, climbing, um,
Yeah, all the things that you like to do as
everything.
well.
Yeah, yeah, he's better in everything, you know, so it's so good. So then you can see the bigger picture, bigger peaks, bigger objectives. And this is for me inspiring. So this is why I've been doing so much with those guys and going to Alaska with Marcus as well. So I know this guy is so good and is so good in Alaska. So if I go with him in Alaska to make this film Circle of Madness, for sure it's a bit intimidating at first because you're like, oh wow, if I jump my 3 meters cliff and then he jump his like 15 meters cliff, I'm gonna look like shit. But in a way, no, we just do both of us we go to the maximum of what we can do, and even though if it's a different sport, if you do good in your sport, it just looks good. I don't think there is that of a crazy comparison or whatever. So it went super cool.
No, it looked absolutely insane. That was
Cool.
crazy.
Thank you.
Um,
So
so I,
yeah, I love to be with skiers because they have some possibilities of doing bigger or different or faster stuff. So it pushed me to go further. But yeah, if I go with snowboarders, I'd love to go with sick for snowboarders as well. It's just lately I haven't done, but you know, when you go with Xav to Antarctica or with Travis in Alaska or whatever, it's
yeah,
sick too, you know?
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, I was going to ask you about your idols and inspirations, but I think we've just we've just covered all of that. So,
No, there
um,
are there are a bunch more. I was never a guy who was like, okay, this is my hero. You know, I always did my thing, and when I was freestyling, I was just doing it, and not caring too much. But I remember in the stage of my career, for sure, this guy is, you know, you get inspired by the people you. I feel your writing represent the guy you've been spending time with, writing with, and you take the best of everybody. And I know, for example, when I was a kid, well, I was inspired by my bigger brothers and sisters just because for their lifestyle. I know they were doing their stuff. They were coming back every weekend with a big smile on their face. They had a great time. So I just saw the lifestyle of doing this that looked super fun, inspiring, fulfilling. So that was an inspiration. Then we did all the film with Rip Curl, and then sometimes I rode with Elias Elart,
yeah,
and I saw, holy moly, this guy is an animal. He can stomp like the big cliff to flat and no problem. And I was like, wow. So sometimes when I was in other spots after, I was like, well, yeah, Elias could jump that, no, no, no. And you're like, okay, maybe I should try. So this helps you to push you. Then I watch, when I watch films, for example, Haldor has been one of the biggest guy I love so much to watch. Even though there's no way I can compare myself to him. Um,
I
but
don't
he's,
think many people can really.
yeah,
He's that crazy that.
yeah, he has the best style ever. He's so good, so stylish. And then I know Kazuhiro Kokubo, big inspiration, his style, his fluidity in the mountain to ride like a ninja.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, if I go, yeah, a bunch of guys like this when you ride, you get a bit of all of those guys, and yeah.
for sure. How about your sponsor?
My sponsor, what about them?
You ride for Jones Snowboards now?
Yeah, super
So
hyped.
there we
Yeah.
go, no doubt. So how is it? How did the hookup with Jeremy Jones come about?
So I was riding for Nitro, was going pretty good. I won the Freeride World Championships and stuff. Then I got fired, so I actually didn't really get the why, or I didn't really get it. I was like, oh, damn it, really now? I had such another great season, but okay, whatever. But let's not get pissed and let's just bounce off
Yep.
that. So I contacted a few brands, and actually I had a few opportunities. And so Burton was down, Rossignol, K2, and Jones. But Jones, I thought I would never really get the good support because I felt they were just helping out kind of riders, but you know. But then at some point I realized that they were really motivated, and Xavier Nidecker was taking care of the deal, kind of. I just had one call with Jeremy Jones. He explained me, but
Yeah.
then I was talking with Xavier
Oh,
Nidecker.
that's right, because it's part of I've totally spaced
Nidecker
it.
Group,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
part of the group, exactly.
yeah. And he was so hyped on supporting me, and he gave me a good contract. And so now I'm super happy of these sponsors. They follow me so well, and every time I say, "Oh, we can even modify products," they made a kind of a pro model. Yeah, like last year I said, "Hey, it would be cool to make a board a bit more like this, a bit shorter." with a bit of a wider nose, for example. And then he said, okay, let's do it. And then 2 weeks later, we're already working on the design of it. And so now I'm gonna have this board, which is gonna be called the Howler. So yeah, I just tried a few sample one day. So now I'm gonna receive the new ones pretty soon. Super excited.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's great to have brands that support you. They believe in me, and we work great together.
Epic. Have you gotten to go on any trips with Jeremy?
No, actually, since I'm writing for them, I never saw the dude again.
I
Ah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I did once when I was filming for the first phase. We did a camping trip together, a
Okay.
camping trip in Alaska. Yeah, it was pretty all time. I was like, "What? I'm on a camping trip with Travis Rice and Jeremy Jones." Okay, whatever. It was really. I was like, I was. I felt like I was really a kid, and yeah, I had this opportunity at some point, and then couple years, like no, maybe I don't know, 6 years after I got in the Jones team.
Okay, all right. So you haven't actually gone riding with Jeremy since you've been riding his boards.
Yeah, correct. I
Okay.
wish, but didn't
I'm
get the
sure that will
opportunity.
happen at some point.
Well, he invited me once to a trip with Elena Height and him to Alaska, but it was during the COVID year, so this got
Mm,
canceled, and they probably went, but I couldn't from Europe.
right, exactly. Good deal. Well, listen, we've been talking a little bit about Travis. We've mentioned him a couple times. We haven't talked about natural selection. So that was in 2021. So just after you'd won your second title. How did that whole natural selection invitation come about?
So while I was filming for the first phase, he was already telling me about this project of natural selection. He's been working on this project for
Yeah,
15
for
years. I don't
years.
know, for
Yeah.
so long. It took so much time to build the course, get the sponsors, put everything together. And so I was like, wow, this would be my dream competition, kind of. But then it wasn't happening. Then I started Freeride World Tour. And then he told me, yeah, that first year on the Freeride World Tour, he told me, I told him, oh, could I come? He said, well, if you win the tour, you could come. So then I won the tour, and then I asked him, so I won, can I come now? He said yes. So they invited me. So I went to this competition, and wow, that was really a hectic moment. So first of all, we thought we were invited, like you're invited to natural selection. And we're like, awesome. We went with Marion Hearty. First of all, it was a mission to get the ticket with the COVID, with the test. We had to ask authorization to go to the US, to the French embassy, or it was such a mess. We got the authorization just a few days before. So then we made it to the airport with Marion. Then we had a layover somewhere in the US, but the airport were closed at night, so we had to stay outside and we're freezing our
Oh,
ass.
no
We're like,
way.
and we could see the guys between the cops between the window, and they wouldn't even let us pass. We're like, come on, it's freezing, and they were like, no, not even making attention. Somehow we managed to sneak us somewhere with a small door with Marion, and we slept on the floor like gypsies on our board bag. It was funny. So then we went there, we arrived there. Um, then you're invited to the natural selection. So you arrive to the hotel. It was at the base of the resort. So sick. Then you just swipe up your card, so they have a print. Blah blah blah. Then when we left, I realized we were actually paying for the room, and we spent like $3,000 in accommodation or something super crazy like this.
No
So we
way.
were like, wow. So it was actually a big budget to go there. I think it cost me maybe, I don't know, maybe 6K or 5K. It was crazy.
Oh, wow. I thought it was all comped.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, that was one of the story. And then,
And then on
uh,
snow,
wait,
yeah.
wait, yeah, and then on snow we go with Marion. We scope a bit on the first day, but it's kind of hard to scope because you're on the side, and yeah, there's a bunch of trees. You don't see much. Oh, there's lots of powder, epic condition, epic venue. So then we just go under a rope just at the end of the slope, just to kind of cut a turn, kind of. We just go straight in between. Then we have a guy at the lift that follows us, and he say, "Oh, you just passed. Nice run, dude. Nice track." And then he actually just took our names and say, "Why do you take our names? It's not allowed to go under the rope in the US." And say, "Oh, yes, sorry, we're so French. Yeah, Marion lives in Chamonix, me from the Pyrenees. Sorry, we didn't know." And then actually, so he took our names and we said, "Okay, can we still riding?" He said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you can still riding, but I just take your name." And in the evening, so that was before the competition, the day before. So, you're pretty stressed. You try to
Yeah.
study your line. We had an hectic riders meeting because riders had to choose against who they were fighting,
Right.
but we
Yeah.
didn't know that in advance. So we were at the riders meeting, and you're like, "What? I need to choose against who I am?" And me, I choose the Chase Kostenberg, but I had no idea what he did the previous season. And actually, he was filming his X Games competition video, so he was so fired up, and so I
Yeah.
chose the worst guy to compete against. So all this was a lot of stress. And in the evening, Travis tells me, "Hey, can you come to my room with Marion?" And we're like, "Oh, shit." So he was on the phone with the director of the resort who
Resort.
said that we are not able to compete for the competition because we went under a rope. Our pass won't work. And then after a while, she said, "Okay, well, you can compete, but you need to hike. And to hike the resort, you need to hike so much, so far up. It was such a mission. And then you can compete, but if you win, you don't win the prize money." Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, whatever. Let's compete at least. So in the morning, we had to wake up super early. He called one of his friend, uh, who would bring us with the sled on the slope before the slope would arrive. So we
Right.
were with
Yeah.
Marion super early doing that, but we were not able to bring our snowboards with us because there was not enough room on the skidoo.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah, so we arrived at the beginning of the course super early. We're freezing our ass. We had no boards, and then we saw all the riders started to come, ride next to the course, have fun, scope, ride, feel the snow, and we're just waiting for our boards. Had no idea where they were. At some point, really late after, we had our boards, and then I made two shitty runs,
Yeah.
and I got kicked out. And it was super. Before going to that event, I told myself, well, it's a new event, so I have experience in competition in free riding. You need to scope, spotter, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought I had a bit of an advantage, so I thought the level would be way lower in a way.
Uh-huh.
But actually, and we didn't know much as well about the judging system. And actually, I was all wrong about everything. Everybody was just standing, trying stuff,
Yeah.
and even if you fell,
It didn't
but
really
if
matter that
yeah,
much.
it
Yeah.
didn't matter. And this we didn't know. Well, at least I didn't know.
Yeah.
So everybody was standing, and me, I was more going like Freeride World Tour, where you need to stomp your run
Stomp.
top to
Yeah.
bottom. And so I totally blew it, and, and he was over. So it was so much stress, no pass. Oh yeah, and in the first day of the first run of the competition, well, the warm up, I mean, we had to have a special jacket with like because we're not allowed to take the lift, so I had to
Oh,
take
right. Yeah.
the lift from somebody and the jacket of a ski patrol to pretend I was from the resort. So it was so much stuff happening in our mind, and but Marion did good. Marion, I
Yeah.
think she got the second probably that comp.
Yeah, I think she did. She's actually done really well in like every single one.
Yeah,
But it's funny. I wanted to ask you about it because she's the I put down in my notes to ask you about Marion because she's the only athlete who's won both. And I wanted to ask
yeah.
you what
That's
you
true.
yeah, she's the only one to have won both. And I think for Freeride World Tour riders, there's only been two male world champions that have been invited, you and Niels Minnick. And Niels did pretty well. I think it was
Yeah,
last year.
yeah. He killed it. He
Yeah.
did a full run in switch and
Yeah.
stuff, and even won the other guy while he was in switch.
Yeah.
Well, Niels is a beast, huh? He's such a good rider, and Yeah, one year he won on the Freeride World Tour, but the year after he kind of fucked up, but he's
Yeah.
so good.
No, no doubt, no doubt. So, do you think? I mean, do you think is there like a competition between Freeride World Tour and Natural Selection? I mean, when it first started, Natural Selection, it was the Natural Selection Tour, and now they're just kind of doing like a one-off
Yeah.
event. Do you? I mean, are like, do you feel kind of like you should be invited back since you're like three-time Freeride World Tour champion, or I don't know, what's your whole feeling? Is there a rivalry between the two tours? Do you, as a European, do you feel that you guys aren't maybe, held in such high regard as the Americans or the Scandinavians? I mean, I don't know. Feel free to jump in on
Yeah.
any of those subjects. Just tell me, Freeride World Tour, Natty Select.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
So I think as Americans, well, everything I'm gonna tell is just what I'm assuming, but I don't know. So I would imagine Americans wouldn't see Freeride World Tour much of a competitor because we are a bit more Euro based. So yeah, I would see it like this. Americans probably think what happens in America is the most important, and we don't have on the Fred World Tour many events happening there yet, unfortunately. Hopefully, more to come. And what else about
Just do you think there's any kind of rivalry between the
yeah,
two tours? I mean, even though, especially when it first came on, I know that people were like, "Oh my God, the Freeride World Tour is going to
yeah,
be,
yeah,
it's going to kind of lose out to Natural Selection." Where now they've kind of taken it in a new direction, where they have the four sports and it's kind of like four specialty events.
hmm
Um, but I
Well,
don't, and I just, yeah,
first it
go
was
ahead.
a bit more freestyle because when the year I did, they shaped the kicker. It just not like 5 cm on top of the jump, but everything was pretty much shaped. So this is different when you ride like a steep line, sometimes on more difficult competition conditions. And these days, um, I get a bit less of a freestyler than before, so I get a bit more attracted to freeride. So if they would do more competition in Alaska and those kind of stuff, for sure I would be hyped. But this year, actually, I got invited. I need to give the answer to do the duels.
Right, yeah.
But it's a split board duel that, well, maybe I should not say that. Maybe it's a secret. But yeah, I'm not that stoked on do a competition in split board, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you would. I thought it would be the opposite, since you're really good at hiking and doing all the backcountry and
Yeah, but to
alpinism.
ride and perform on my split board is not really my thing. I
Right.
love to split board to access somewhere, but to perform and do tricks, it's not my thing yet.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
maybe I was not supposed to talk about all that natural selection thing.
That's all good. No worries. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We're still waiting to find out.
Yeah.
Stuff from the website. But and are you looking forward to seeing the skiers in AK? Because if I
Yeah.
under because Marcus is going to be there, I think.
Exactly. So you've got some information, huh? Yeah, I've been hanging out a lot of Marcus, so he told me about it and he showed me the face in Alaska. Looks yeah, quite unreal, and it's going to be such a show. And I'm a bit disappointed that natural selection is not able to pull that for snowboard, which for me at the beginning, natural selection he worked on it for so many years, and the goal was to make a tour, but as well in Europe, in Austria, France,
Yeah.
Japan, and all that. And but for some reason, he seems to be pretty complicated with the budget. So I feel their competition is evolving a bit every year, kind of.
Oh, for sure.
Uh,
It totally
yeah,
is. And I
but
think as well
so
there. Yeah,
the
go ahead.
base was really Alaska and Canada, like boom, 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 big stuff. But now that there is not even a Alaska anymore, for me gets a tiny bit less interesting. But
Yeah.
if I would have been younger, I would have been super stoked. But now I'm a bit more into free riding and putting tricks in there, but freeride base.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Um, and one of the things with natural selection as well, as far from a tour standpoint, it's something that we see with the Freeride World Tour. It's really hard. I think the natural selection concept works because they're always in, in places where it's pretty much always in deep powder. Of course,
Yeah,
except for the year that you rode Jackson when it was dust on crust, but but it's usually blower powder in
yeah.
Alaska, in British Columbia, and it's not especially in Europe. It's not always easy to.
Yeah, and that makes the whole difference as a snowboarder to be able to perform when it's good snow, because on snowboard you're such more, it's so much easier to fall compared to skiers when they have the two poles, the both skis, they can move the legs in the air. For us, if you're not like super square, boom, you kind of fall. And so this is why it's hard on the Freeride World Tour to compete and to show yourself to show some good snowboarding, because you can fall easily, and if you fall once then your season is kind of over, so it's really like a fine line, and this is what's being a bit hard. So this is what I like about the natural selection, is like, actually, it's like you do a run, and if you do tricks, boom, 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 you get some point. But if you fall at some point, you don't really lose points, but you just don't gain.
Right.
Whereas, so in the Freeride World Tour, you do your run, you can do the second run, but if you fall 2 meters before the finish line, then you lost.
Yeah.
And so it's not pushing you to do cool stuff, especially on difficult conditions. So yeah, that's a difference between the two events for sure.
Yeah. From a judging standpoint, definitely.
And they have most of the time two runs, so it's, people don't realize how difficult it is to get just one run from a face that you scope with the binos, that you just look at pictures, and you have just one chance to go down, and you know you cannot fuck up. Whereas those guys, it's in most of the time in good snow. Some take off kind of pre-shaped, and they have two runs at least, because usually it's some battles.
Yeah.
So you do two runs and hopefully you pass. So then you know really well the condition, and then you know the features as well, and then you can send much more. And even though you, yeah, you can try some stuff, if, and you know that you can fall as well, and keeps trying to send some cool tricks. So it's so much easier to show a better snowboarding for me on the natural selection than on the Fred World Tour.
Yeah.
So this is why a bunch of Americans are like, yeah, I should try this freeride world, no, this freeride tour thing again, maybe, because they think it's so easy. But and actually, a bunch of guys, they come and they realize it's way harder than they thought. Like we
Yeah.
all did when we showed up for the first time. Like, oh, that looks easy,
Yeah. For sure.
but
And
there's so
then
much more involved than we
yeah.
think.
But it's still from a rider standpoint, even though it'd be nice to have some events back, more events in America, in the United States. Obviously, we have the in North America. There's always an event somewhere, but have one in the U.S. But as far as representation on tour, it's pretty balanced between the Europeans and the Americans, with the odd Japanese
Yeah.
and Australian and Kiwi riders thrown in, especially the Kiwi skiers, man. They're
They're badass because they know how to ride on shitty snow. But
indeed.
yeah, but at least we're going the right way, because this year we have a sixth event in Val Thorens. So it's in a place where it's in altitude. The summit is like the 3,000, probably 400 meters in early season. So at least there is gonna be some snow. And so now we have six events total, and the cut is after the fifth event, and you have three chances to get good results out of those five to qualify to the cut and to the next year. So all this is going to the right direction for us to be able to ride the best way possible, instead of being of having a stick in the ass, kind of, and being like all blocked. So
No, for
that's
sure.
good.
It's definitely no. I think having that extra event, yeah, is fantastic, and hopefully we get some, like you said, some good snow this time around.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask you, well, as well. I know that they've been working really hard on the launch of the World Championships in Andorra. So this year we don't have the event in Andorra. It's going to come back in. Oh, I'm gonna get
26.
snapped in 2026. That's exactly it. Not next year, but in 2 seasons. 2026, the World Championships in Andorra. So as a three-time tour champion, how do you feel as far as somebody's going to win the world championships and be a world champion as well? I've always wondered. It's one of those things. It's not to take a dig at the Freeride World Tour, but I've always wondered in different sports where there's a whole tour and you win, like when you win the Crystal Globe
Yeah.
in skiing, and then there's the World Championships and you win. It's a one-off event and you're the world champion. First of all, do you think it's a good idea for the World Championships? Are you going to go if you qualify? And then kind of how do you feel about the tour champion compared to the winner of the World Championships?
Yeah, so already I don't know how it's gonna work because before now we say like for example I'm 3 times world champion for example. I don't know if this is gonna count from now on or not really because now it's gonna be globe for the world championship, no, for the season, and then it's gonna be Fred world champion for the guy who wins the
That's
single
that's my
championship. So
question.
this I don't know. It's not my. Those guys are thinking
Yeah, they're smarter
about
people
it.
than us that are
Yeah,
discussing that have made the
yeah,
decisions.
exactly. And yeah, I mean, my goal is to do yeah the best I can. And I love the Pyrenees. It's my favorite mountain range, but to have a compete there personally, it's not where I think it would be the sickest. But that's personal because for the snow, it's the probability of having a banger snowboard snow condition is not the highest, even though the venue is could be pretty cool if it's the one that we had like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, Andorra definitely, that's one thing Andorra has saved, except for what was canceled last year because there really was no snow in the Pyrenees. But Andorra has kind of saved the tour on numerous occasions because there's been events canceled in Chamonix and in Japan, and they always end up running two events in Andorra. So even
Yeah,
if the snow is not always fantastic, but the mountains
yeah,
are pretty well suited to free ride competition. Although yes, getting waist deep powder is usually
yeah,
not the thing, but the venues are good, and you think back of like at Smoothies Garden and stuff like that. There's
yeah,
some pretty good riding and opportunity to go a little more freestyle. I know that Rainey Barkerhead, the mayor of Stomptown, the Andorra is not his favorite
yeah,
location because it's too
yeah,
small and all those kids spin, and then I don't have big enough cliffs to drop.
yeah.
Anyhow, all right, okay. Let's see. Well, we're getting on to an hour and a half here, so oh yeah,
Sorry already to everybody who have to listen to 1 hour and a half
they
of
they
us
might
talking.
they say that they don't edit these things, but I think they might take a little chop here or there. You are I just one last thing that we talked about earlier, the fact that you love hanging out with Sam Ontamaten because you guys have so many because he's so good at so many aspects of mountaineering and then paragliding and all the rest of it. You're part of the climb in, fly out crew. I've been watching what was it, the daily routine with Jeremy Heights, and a bunch
Hmm.
of you guys now are just you climb in and then you get down to the end of a no exit couloir, and we just get out the paragliders and away we
Yeah.
go now. It's is as I think as you guys get older too, that's it adds a little bit more
Oh yeah, for
excitement to
sure.
it.
Oh, that's where I get the happiest guy ever when I can combine different activities. And if you can, yeah, have a sick day climbing, even in the summer or in the winter, and then well, you do your thing, get to the summit, you're so happy, and then you have a long way down. Or if it's in the summer, you just take off. So, or if it's in the winter, you ride down and then you arrive to Serac or something and you just need to escape and then you take the wing off. It's so nice because it saves you on the way down, but as well you fly, which is so fun. And you see a place that you love from a different perspective, from the air. And then you have even more adrenaline because at the beginning of the day, you have a complicated day because, like you're gonna be able to already bring more gear because you need to think about everything, the condition. You need to have the wind in the right direction when you need to fly off, and sometimes if it doesn't work, then you're screwed because you can go down. So when you manage to do it, you're like, wow, I had a plan and it all worked. It was epic.
Good deal. I wanted to end it there, but I'm not going to because I want to talk to you about you just did you just did the of a lifetime with your brother and your niece. But there was one other one that I wanted to ask you about, a life outdoors.
Mm,
The
yeah,
trip that you did
yeah.
with Paula and
Sleeve, it's called. I'm gonna
yeah,
repost it
Freedom
on
Sleeve.
YouTube
Yes.
pretty soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I thought that was just classic because you've kind of come the full circle now from the full on Grom to the world champ, and now you talked about the climbing trip where you found out that Paula was pregnant with Marcus,
Yeah.
and then just watching the three of you guys on that family trip was
Thank you.
it was just heartwarming. Really, really
Yeah,
was.
that was such an adventure. It was a year where I was injured. I couldn't do anything. And at the end of the year, yeah, I was just managing to be good enough with my foot. So I managed to do that trip with Markus Eder. And then after that, we organized that family vacation to Norway. And we knew we had to do it that year because Marcus was 2.5, so we couldn't have done it before because he would have been too young. And we couldn't really do it after because probably the year after she would be pregnant again, you know. So it was now or never. And yeah, he was 2.5, and we did 11 days traverse in Norway with pulkas, so in the snow in May, traversing the Norwegian National Park Hardangervidda. And yeah, that was a big challenge as well because we've never done something like that. And you go with a kid 2.5 years old, and you know that the
Yeah.
weather can go absolutely crazy there.
I was wondering about that. You guys lucked out because you did really well. You got blue sky almost the entire way across.
Yeah, no, we had a lot of rain and
Oh, did you
we had
too?
the,
Okay.
the the whole weather, but not the craziest wind. My
Right.
hair my AirPods are gonna
Are
stop
gonna
working
go
in
out
a few
soon.
seconds.
Okay. All right. Well, it's all.
Sorry, but
No, no, no. That's there we go. That's not exactly how I wanted to end it, but let's go. Let's go to the shout outs. I know you want to, you want to say thank you to people. It's that's the traditional way to end these things. So it's you, Victor. Thank you very much for doing this with us, and I'll leave it to you to do shout outs to
yeah.
whoever you want.
So thank you, Dave. You killed it. It was super cool talking talking with you. I hope it's not getting too boring for you guys listening, and I hope you learned some stuff and it could inspire you in a way. And yeah, as you mentioned, thank you to my sponsor who's supporting me for making this for all those years, and thank you for the Freeride World Tour as well for making those sick competition and help us to challenge ourselves on the competition and to have as well a goal to train for to get better at. And yeah, so stoked to see everybody super soon in Baqueira.
Perfect. We're stoked to see you too. Thanks again, Victor Delarue. Best of luck for 2025. Hopefully, he's going to be the 4-time world champion at the end of this coming season. I hope so, anyways. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
All
Cheers.
good. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Well, there you have it. Victor Delarue, the 3-time world champion, soon to be 4. Awesome chat with a really cool cat. As always, check back next Friday on the Freeride World Tour social media channels to find out who our final guest of the season will be. Till then, don't forget to drop in.